Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to Understanding Modern Business and Organisations Week 3 Google Hangout, coming to you live from the University of Strathclyde in Glasgow. Today, we will be putting your questions to Dr. Victor Dorfler, discussing Week 3 of the course, Technology and Organisations. Please feel free to ask questions using the Google Hangout question bar, and we will do our best to pass along as many of your questions as we can. You can also post your questions live using Twitter. Make sure to use the hashtag FLModernBiz. And now, without further ado, I will hand you over to your host today, Dr. Victor Dorfler.
Another 2 weeks have passed since the previous Hangout, and it is very interesting experience for me. I hope it is also for you who are participating in this course. This also means that we arrived to the middle of the course and only 3 weeks are left to go. So I would like to mention 2 people who in these last 2 weeks have posted a particularly large number of exceptionally meaningful comments, examples, metaphors. That's Bart and Bradley. So I will just spend a few minutes on telling you how this voting works, how we prepare for the Hangout. You know the 2 moderators, they are collecting various particularly significant questions during the non-Hangout times from the various participants, and they are preparing a document from this. And these are the questions that I have in front of me when we start the Hangout. Some of these I have answered in the meantime during the course, and some of these I have not answered yet. But in every case, these are questions that appear to be of more general interest to the whole audience. So I would like to start with the first questions from this pile. Victoria Prokopchuk was asking about the skills in organizations. Obviously, I provided an example about bicycle riding, and she was asking whether I can get something similar, which would be more along the lines of management and work in modern business and organizations. There is one skill that is important for every single leader, manager, or indeed any knowledge worker, and that's the communication skills. And I have seen very, very few managers who would be familiar with the psychology of conversations and who learned the various linguistic and interpersonal psychology backgrounds, yet many of them were excellent communicators. So this is the simplest experience, but depending on the particular job a person does, there could be many other ones, for example, using an Excel spreadsheet or the Google Docs, which Aidan and I are using now to get your questions to my computer real time. There is a similar question from Elsa Furtado, but it was referring to a different knowledge type. So you remember the 3 types of knowledge: the facts, the skills, and the intuition. It seems that everyone finds it very easy to cope with the facts, and that's what is to be expected, because that's what we most often talk about when we talk about knowledge. So Elsa was asking about intuition, and particularly the intuition in relation to creativity. So, of course, these are both very important. What is most important in managerial jobs is the intuitive decisions, the intuitive judgments. That means that very often we don't have sufficient information to arrive to a decision through analysis. And the managers need to take the decisions anyway, because the time is pressing, because something needs to be done now, because the situation is far too complex, and it is obvious that it is not possible to obtain any significant amount of relevant information. But it is so the intuitive judgment is the most frequently appearing in this. However, there is a smaller subset of knowledge workers whose job is to be creative. This is not to say that not all jobs can be done in more or less creative ways. creativity can be very important in leadership and management as well. Just think about all those ways of how certain people reinvented their corporations, and probably the two best examples would be the Apple during Steve Jobs or the Facebook. Now, there are, however, other people whose job is to provide creative, innovative ideas. And there is a very simple way how to divorce, or not divorce, but distinguish between the creativity and the innovation. Creativity stands for creating a new idea, and innovation stands for creating a new value from this new idea. So the two are very much linked, but they are definitely not the same. Now, those for whom the creativity is the quintessence of the job, for them, the other form of intuition, the intuitive insight, would be particularly important. Many of you have probably know already from my biography that I had a very interesting research project in which I was interviewing Nobel laureates. And that's where I conceptualized the intuition as a big leap with my colleague Colin Eden. And the idea here is that the thinking does not follow the normal step-by-step reasoning, but occasionally the creative people get somewhere ahead, something that is not obvious from that mainstream of thinking. And that means that they get an insight about the essence of the solution. And this sometimes happens before they are even to properly formalize the problem. Now, the next question is coming from Helen Whitley. And this is about the knowledge workers and the tendency that knowledge workers are changing jobs a lot of the time. And then obviously there is no such answer that this is how you then invest in your knowledge workers and then keep them. This is one of the great paradoxes of the current world of business and organizations. Of course, it is also good that there is no such answer, because if there was a well-structured answer how you can do that, everyone would be doing it and every company would be the same. Now, this is not the case. Obviously, there are some companies that are successful, some that are not. What is important is, if you follow Mintzberg's argument about management and leadership, is that you cannot, for example, become a manager through school education. So the MBA course does not make managers. The MBA course can provide analysts who are proficient in various business disciplines, but you cannot become a manager in a school. You can only become a manager on the job. And in order to become a good manager, you need to know the workplace, the context inside out, and that takes a long time. So in order to have good managers, you need to keep them. And there is no recipe how to keep them, but they tend to stay in organizations where they are happy. The reason that that many knowledge workers are changing jobs is that this seems to be the fastest way of getting promoted in the different organizations rather than within the same ones. But this also means that either they are worth hiring in those higher positions, and that means that they could have been promoted in their previous workplace as well, or they are not worth hiring, and then those companies who are hiring people who are not ready for a higher position yet are probably making mistakes. In any way, you have to invest in these people because they want to learn, they want to become better, and so on, but you need to also figure out how to keep them. And there is no single right answer on how this could be done. There was a bunch of questions in relation to the notion of shallows. It seems that it is a particularly popular topic. And there seemed to be one misunderstanding that happened for quite a few participants. One of the people is Jaron Cullen, who was asking a question about the shallow competent person. So it seems that so the two concepts, the shallow and the competence as an up-to-date concept and the shallow as an upcoming concept, they were counterpoints. Okay, so as concepts, they are counterpoints, but this does not mean that their meaning is the opposite. The opposite of shallow would be the deep, and the opposite of the competent is the ignorant. So this means, or incompetent, which is basically the same. This means that you either have shallow knowledge, which can be very, very wide. And if you cover a large area with that shallow knowledge, this means that it can be still a knowledgeable person, and obviously a knowledgeable person can become competent. You can also achieve a great level of knowledge if you go in depth in a much narrower area, but that does not mean that that knowledge will be bigger than the shallow knowledge. So we could have the shallow competent as well as the deep competent. It will be different type of knowledge, very different behavior probably, and I could imagine that, for example, in an R&D department, we would prefer to have deep competent people because they need to know everything about that very narrow area in which they are doing their research. However, it is very plausible that it is better if a manager is a shallow competent because he or she needs to manage a whole bunch of different people. The next question was about the COPs, and I would like to read a little bit for you here. This comment is coming from Ronald van Rafforst, and he is talking about his organization and that they are organizing events once a month when they come together, and the idea is that they share their knowledge with each other, and they give presentations about themes they are interested in related to their work and so on. And he says that he realizes that it is not exactly a community of practice because these events are managed, but he thinks that it is a good thing, and I fully agree. I will explain in a moment. But he also says that he believes that this is not really a community of practice, although there are some knowledge workers who are coming together also on their own right, so that they organize themselves to come together and share their knowledge. Now, you are very right that this is not a COP, these events, because the COP requires that aspect of emergence. So you cannot set it up and control it. However, if you look at what an organization can do in order to help communities of practice emerge, that's exactly this type of events. If you read the book of Tom Davenport and Larry Prusak called Working Knowledge, they are writing about a very interesting series of events in several companies. They call them knowledge fairs. That's basically an event when people can come together and they can share their knowledge about more or less anything. So they can show off that there is something that they have good understanding of. Usually it is not even limited to work-related knowledge. Usually it is allowed that any kind of knowledge can be included. Now, I would say that these events that you are talking about are more along the lines of these knowledge fairs than communities of practice, but this is an excellent initiative, and this is something that can help communities of practice emerge, exactly because like-minded people may meet there who care about the same things, and if they start sharing knowledge about those things they care about, the community of practice may emerge. Now, what can be done in the next step is to give them time and space and support them with the relevant tools so that they can make the best use of these. Marco Anneli was asking whether this kind of knowledge model would mean that we are moving from a bookshelves metaphor of knowledge towards a network metaphor of knowledge, and this is an excellent metaphor. By the way, I have also picked up quite a few metaphors and arguments from the course, which I am using now in my face-to-face courses. I already used one, for example, 2 days ago on Wednesday, which was provided by Bradley. So Marco Anel is asking, based on this metaphor, whether this means that Leonardo was a shallow. No, but it was a very different time. So at the time of Socrates, it was possible that the whole knowledge fits into the mind of one single person. Our mind has limited capacity, and as the disciplines kept growing, it is not possible anymore to fit the whole knowledge of the world into the mind of a single person. And it is very often said that Leonardo was the last polymath. Now, the polymath would be the person who is the master of many disciplines. Probably Socrates was the last who was the master of all disciplines of his time. Leonardo was the last one who was master of most disciplines of his time. And then sometimes we say that it is Simon, Herbert Simon, the economics Nobel laureate, who was the last to be master of several disciplines. So he would be a kind of oligomath. But currently, the disciplines are so broken down into small pieces, and that a large amount of knowledge is available within single small disciplines, and therefore now it is not possible to be a master of many disciplines. And that probably is the reason, from knowledge point of view, why the shallow emerges. It is because instead of the deep-based competence, we will be going towards the shallow-based competence. It is also very interesting that the same way as end of week 1, many people started shifting towards the notion of knowledge. Now, then end of week 2, many started shifting towards the role of technology. And this week, in the last couple of days, many people started shifting towards the concept of ethics, particularly in terms of how, for example, this all fast developing new technology affects our lives and working environment and the planet as a natural ecosystem. So it means that that somehow probably the content is following the thinking process of the participants, or the other way around. But certainly I am very happy about this, because that gives support to the idea that it could be done this way. There was a question from Paul Brearley about the relationship between intelligence and competence. It is a very large topic, so I cannot cover it in any significant detail, but I did provide a couple of comments in the platform. So intelligence is not necessary to be very high to achieve competence. There is a threshold. So below certain level, the thinking is very slow. There is otherwise no real difference between the higher and the lower intelligence. So you need a certain level of intelligence in order to be able to become knowledgeable. But apart from that, there is no really great significance. And then there was a question which was actually making this connection between the technology and the knowledge very nicely with reference to the intelligence. When Raoul Hendricks was asking about the notion of artificial intelligence. Some of you might have noticed from my profile that I have been involved in AI development. Namely, it is about developing knowledge-based expert systems. Now, there are two paradigms in this area, in the area of AI. One is called strong AI, the other is called weak AI. The strong AI means that you believe in the possibility of building a thinking machine. The weak AI means that you want to build useful tools to help knowledge workers do their job better, to make their life easier, and so on. But you don't believe in a thinking machine. So I am in this mindset. I don't believe that a thinking machine is possible. And instead of an elaborate technical explanation, I could simply say that there was a brilliant quote. I just don't remember at the moment who said it, which was that if the human thinking was simple enough that it could be understood, we would be too simple to understand it. So this gets us back to another problem which was related one to which was covered, so to the problem of modeling. In the lecture, I was focusing on the problems of modeling with reference to trying to foresee the future. However, there is another very significant problem about modeling, and that is that we can only model what we know. And unless we know the thinking inside out, we cannot build a model which is very similar. But if you think about the VKI approach, I would easily explain it through the difference between the horse and the car. If I want to go somewhere long distance, a few hundred years ago, I needed a horse to get from one point to the other one. They did not model the horse. They did not develop an artificial horse. They invented the engine and put wheels below it, and therefore invented the car and the railway and so on. And that performs the same sort of job. So it takes me from one point to another, but it does not mean that it works in any sense the same way as the horse. So that way, we build the knowledge-based expert systems. They work in a different way. Particularly, we believe that work in a different way because we don't know how the thinking exactly works, but we can use it to perform similar tasks. There was a very interesting question from Lily Liu about the possibility of recognizing these new alchemists and recruiting them and so on. Now, I have this model of knowledge levels where the highest knowledge level is called the grandmaster level. It would be one of the golden eggs of business if there was a recipe how to recognize the grandmasters, how to hire the most knowledgeable people you have access to. This is not possible. There is no recipe for that. But there is something. What I have seen is that the grandmasters do recognize each other. So otherwise, if you are in the same discipline, you can recognize someone who is up to one level higher than you are. And we have 5 levels. 5 levels of knowledge that I was able to distinguish. Now, you can recognize that someone is 1 level higher, but if someone is 2 levels higher than you are, then you don't know whether it is a charlatan or an exceptionally knowledgeable person. So the same way, you cannot say who is talented for the highest level of knowledge at very early age. You can only see that they are talented for the next knowledge level. There were several questions about this. What was very interesting in terms of the technology is that there was a very large number of comments about people's own preferences to how they want to use technology, what they think about reliability. And you can see that there are many, many different viewpoints, and it is incredibly rich material. So it was fantastic to see how many viewpoints are possible. Sometimes participants came up with all sorts of things that I never thought about, and that was leading to excellent conversations. So one of this type of things was, for example, how we deal with the customers, how about the credibility of the company towards the customers, and so on. And it is it was mostly related to the question of the warranty. So obviously, this is, as many other things, there are very, very different ways of approaching it, and there is no single right answer of how it should be done. Of course, you cannot provide unlimited warranty, not only in terms of time, even a 2-year long warranty that applies whatever you do would bankrupt probably any company. However, it is important that we were having a discussion where the warranty and the reliability were expressed in terms of probabilities and so on. And yes, those are all very correct descriptions. However, the customer does not have that knowledge of probabilities that they could understand that. And they don't need to, and they should not be expected to. So what they need is that there are a few like simple rules which they need to follow. The problem is, if we want to cover everything, then we will end up with this kind of guidelines as when you buy a microwave oven and the guide says that you should not put your cat into the microwave. Well, that's insane. And if you need to clarify everything at that level, you will have 6-7 volumes of guides, which is only good for legal protection because not a single person will read that. With Howard, who you have heard of through this course, we have once booked a domain which was called nomanualsallowed.com. And the reason is that we believe that the vast majority of software packages should not have a manual. The software should be simple enough that you download it. If you cannot use it in 5 minutes, you throw it away. That's what I do. There are a few exceptions. For example, these incredibly high complexity engineering design software packages like Autodesk, AutoCAD, PCAD, OrCAD, ArchiCAD, and similar CAD programs. But those are specialized programs which only very high level of expertise people would usually use. Now, there were many questions also about sense making. Many people provided brilliant examples, usually with the comment that they are not sure whether they understand it correctly. Yes, you do. So it was actually very useful material for many to gain a better understanding of sense making. So I urge all those who are having problem with the concept that they read the comments from the others, because there are really excellent examples provided. Now, what is also important is that proper full conceptualization of sense making is not possible in this kind of short space or this kind of short time. Okay, but it is a little bit like mathematics. And there was a mathematics teacher who once told me that you don't really need to understand mathematics. You just start using it and eventually you will get used to it. And I'm a mathematician, so it's obviously worked for me. So sense making is a little bit similar. As soon as you start grasping the essence of the concept, you will start seeing sense making in all sorts of situations. Now, there is one thing that is very important about the component of sense making, which is called enactment. It is the essence of it is that it is action focused, so that it does not require a full agreement about everything between the participants about what that situation means. However, it should be sufficient commonality so that they can take actions together. There were also lots of funny examples about the piracy and all sorts of replicas that you can buy in various countries and so on, and that this is very much encouraged in many places. But this is a little bit different from the concept of piracy, how I intended to talk about it, although these are also quite relevant examples. I guess it will be running, so the piracy will happen in that sense that they are simply copying the original items, as long as the market is less developed. However, you can see that very often companies are actually at least turning blind eye, but almost even encouraging it. For example, there was a time when I was a student and we could not get access to journal articles. And one of the things that doctoral students were doing was hacking publisher websites. Most of the small and medium organizations did not have a proper licensed copy of, for example, Office packages. However, nobody pursued them. Now, the reason is that later on the time came when it was possible for these smaller companies and universities and so on to purchase an Office package. And if you got used to a particular one, then when you were buying it, you wanted the same. So companies started to do this earlier. So there were not really any kind of software police actions in the student accommodations, although basically all the students had not entirely legal versions of, for example, Microsoft Office. However, when they went to work and they started to work in an organization, they were already used to Microsoft Office, and they wanted to use the same in their workplace. Now, that is one of the big teachings about the whole software and computer industry, that the easiest way to become big is that you need to infect the users at very early age. So you give away your software package for free in schools, and then people will want to use it also when they start working, and then they will ask for that. So Aidan is saying that it is time for me to wrap up the today's session. It was a great experience for me to be with you in these 3 weeks. And if you have learned as much as I was learning, then you are on a very good track. Thank you very much, and see you in a couple of weeks' time.
Thank you, Dr. Doerfler. And thank you for tuning in at home. We hope you're enjoying the course, and we would welcome your feedback that you may have regarding the course. You can do this using Twitter to contact us with any feedback you may have using the hashtag FLModernBiz. We hope we will continue to enjoy the rest of the course, and just a reminder that our final Google Hangout will take place in week 6. From all of us here in Glasgow, thank you and goodbye.